Now, in almost any MMORPG, there are money systems. And as we've seen a lot in the recent past, that these money systems become incredibly unbalanced due to farming or money sellers, gil sellers, gold sellers. It depends on the game. And these people have always exist because of how easy it's made for them to do so. I mean, when every single monster out there drops gold, and they can hold any amount, they can just, set that bot up to keep hitting these monsters and keep collecting gold. Pretty much 24/7. And you take this gold, and since there's, instant transfers in these lands, they can sell it to these other people. And there's just more and more money coming in pretty much out of nowhere. And when you do that, I mean, even looking in real life, any accountant or historian can tell you that when you just add all that money in, it creates a horrible depression, depletes the value of the money, and makes it really hard to run an economy. Now, how do you fix such a horrible thing that happens? Well, much like real life, you got to control where the money comes from, control the supply of the money. Now, there are many ways you can do this. You can make it so not all the monsters give away money, or you could have it so that the more you kill a certain monster, the less and less money you get from them. Or you can make it so that you only get money from specific things, like questing or inside jobs in whatever game you're playing. Like being part of the military, you get a set salary as part of this military, and you have to go out and battle and have fun for such a thing. Now, when you get money from found items or weapons or gathered supplies, wood, stone, whatever, you have to limit by supply and demand what you get from these. If you consistently sell these swords to this vendor, eventually he should, his price that he gives you should go down to the point where he will only buy so much from you, or nothing at all, depending on the economy or how much he's getting in at the time. That'll not only force people to not all gather the same thing massively and send it out, but to gather different things. Try to get whatever market's in demand at the time, or whatever's being bought. You do that, they can no longer continuously farm wood or whatever your game has to get the money. They have to spread it around, do it different things. And this will hurt the gil sellers or the money sellers more than it'll hurt the players, because the players don't mind whatever they're at to, but the people that run the bots all day long doing this will mind, because they can only go so far before it'll mess up. They have to continuously make new bots and things like that. And even then, the market's not based on the individual, it's based on how much it's getting in from all of there. So, however, these bots could still, selling this all could outdo the players. But it would be incredibly easy to find these bots that are trying to sell a crap ton of stone a day, whereas the average person would only be like 1/100th of what these players are doing. So it'd be really easy to find these bots that are just trying to make money off of the gathering supplies or whatever. Now, you could also allow people to get money by pickpocketing, looting bodies, or breaking into banks, raiding caravans, things like that. That would also be cool, because then you'd have that extra element into there that your money isn't always completely safe, that it is, more of a danger to have such money. Now, if you allow no instant transfers, that means your money has to be carried by caravan or whatever. That'll limit people from lugging around such large amounts of money from place to place if it can be attacked and taken by either monsters, raiders, other people, other factions, things like that. And also, to help against bots and such, you have to limit the amount of money that a person can carry. Now, you don't have to drastically limit it by a weight limit or whatever, but if you limit it, then you force these bots only be able to get so much at a time running back and forth. And these people with lots of money are forced to use storage areas, whether it's their house, their safe, a bank. You could have the banks in the bigger cities be more fortified than the banks in the smaller cities to protect against bank robbers, things like that. Now, again, what this does is it hurts the money sellers more than the actual players. Actual players probably won't have to worry about sending and transferring large sums of money all over the place constantly. They probably do that very rarely, if at all, if they played it smart. Whereas money sellers have this money all over, huge chunks of money, and they have to get it, and if they have to, send it by caravan and trade routes in order to get it to all these people that are buying it, and it's constantly possible that they're losing it. Not only that, people can identify who these bot people are and when they're making their trades and where these caravans are that carry all this gold that these money sellers are selling. It makes it increasingly difficult for these guys to get what they're doing done, and as a result helps regulate the economy more. Plus, I think it would be really fun to hit these caravans or trains or whatever trade routes and attack them to get the money, because that'd add a lot to the game, I think. Now, I like the auction house because it helps force the money to come from actual players by giving things in exchange to other players. There's not you're not getting it from nowhere with these monsters that continuously pop up and give you gold or things like that. If there's no increase in money, it's just being traded around, you won't have much of an unbalanced economy. And if you did have an unbalanced economy where the money just kept growing and growing, you add elements into the game where that would take away your money. Why do you think they make these quests cost so much money towards you, or things like that, to buy from trainers and things like trying to pull down the money? That's why the price keeps going up. Now, if they added in other things like gangs that steal your money and rob banks, and just NPCs or monsters that do that, and try and bring stabilize the economy, you might need that in your game just to do that. You would need the thieves to keep the money down to balance out so the money just doesn't keep rising and everything. However, what I don't like about the auction houses is it takes away from all the other shops and markets that are in the cities. Instead of going to one section to buy potions, or another section to buy weapons, another section to buy maps or whatever, I can just go to this one place and get everything I want. And not only what I want, but the only real good stuff is usually in the auction house. Now, maybe if you allowed it so that they could get more money selling to vendors, and then those vendors sell back to the other people, try to make it worthwhile to go to the actual vendors that are supposed to be, these great, amazing, city weapon makers that you could care less for because you could get a better one in a crappy quest. If you allow some incentive to actually get these people better weapons or things like that, or just to get these people to go to these vendors, then it'd make them worthwhile to even have there. But so it's up to you. You either have one good building, the auction house, where everything's done, or you try and balance the power out amongst the auction house and all the other vendors. They give you more of a reason to even go to these places. Because right now it seems no one would go to these places ever because they don't have things that are better than what they are currently using. The only way to do that is to get it from people who can find and get these things. And not only that, you won't have to wait for a person to buy your stuff in the auction house. You just sell it to the vendor or hand it off to the vendor. And whenever he sells it, you get a piece of the pie, a piece of the profit. How some businesses are run in real life. Now again, having to run all over the place to get these things may seem more difficult, but people won't mind as long as you make it more fun or more prosperous to them.